Today I went to start the 424 Onan NB just to move it around the yard a little bit and put it in a different spot. And I knew that the carb needs to be rebuilt, and I actually bought the rebuild kit this week. So it wouldn't even start at all with the old carb. Last week it would run on like full choke and that's it. So I'm looking around, and it turns out that the fuel shut-off valve on the gas tank wasn't open more than like a half a turn. And I opened it up, and then it was working, it was running good. It was running really rich, so I had backed out the needle and the carb last week because it was only running choke. It was running so rich this time, I screwed the needle in and it started to run perfect. And then I drove it across the yard, about halfway across the yard, and it just died. And I said, what the heck? And I went and I looked at it, and the gasket on the top of the carb was shot and was just pouring gas right out of the carb. So we're gonna take the carb off and rebuild it. Here we go. So let's look at this carburetor here and figure out how we take it off. So on the Onan NB, you got a throttle linkage. That's this big lever here that comes off the governor. And it goes over here to this rod that has two ball joints. So got to unhook this top ball joint from the carb. And then over here on the side, there's a fuel line that goes down to the fuel pump. We got to take that off. And then we got to unscrew this bracket that holds the throttle and choke cables on. Then we should be able to take out the two nuts over here and pull it off. So let's give it a shot and see if we can get it out. So we got the carb off of there, and we're going to remove this elbow here again, and take the bowl off. And pretty much it just really honestly just needs a new bowl gasket. That's really the only thing wrong with it, I believe. But I'm going to clean it up and get all this dirt and all this junk off of there, and then we'll take the kit out and we'll see if we have the balls to change the float valve, or if I should just leave it. I'm kind of leaning towards leaving it because I think there's nothing wrong with it, and there's a huge risk factor involved with taking the old seat out. So let's give it a shot. The bowl off, and this is the old gasket that's in there. It's really hard and cracked and fragile. So that's how that is, and you can see there's a lot of dirt and stuff in here. Oh, this needle has a spring in the middle of it. Interesting. Huh, I didn't notice that first time around. I'm almost thinking that we're going to dunk this in our dunk tank because it's pretty dirty. If we do that, it's going to take all the paint off of it, so I'll have to repaint it. But I think that at this point is probably the best move with this carburetor, is to do that. I'm having second thoughts on the dunk tank. There's a whole bunch of gaskets up here where it mounts to the engine, and I don't know if I have any of those gaskets in this kit. This kit here is sold by Standard Auto Parts, or Standard Motor Products they call it, but it's a kit number 1666, and it's an aftermarket kit for this Bendix carb here. So let's see what it has in there. I've used these before, and oh, it looks like they might have given me the right gaskets. Let's see, there's two gaskets in there. There's the needle valve. It looks like on here there's more than two gaskets. I'm just really worried about taking them off. Maybe I can carefully pry those old gaskets off of there. Not sure. There's not really anything wrong with them. They're really good old rubber. Here's the instruction kit that comes with it. A Zenith model 1408 carb. And I guess there's even a rubber seal on the throttle shaft. Interesting. So check it out. And there's another seal that they give you for the main jet, which is kind of cool. I don't know if that's actually in this kit or not. Oh, it looks like it is. There's a whole bunch of seals in there. Huh. All right, so what I did is I just ran a bolt through where one of the studs was in the carburetor here, and I have it suspended with a pair of vice grips over the side of the lid, so the gaskets are not into the water. So I'm just going to cover this up, and I'm going to go have lunch and come back, and then we'll clean it out. All right, so it's been soaking in this can here for probably a half hour. So let's pull it out and take a look. Yeah, it's dirty, just like I figured it would be. That's not so bad. So I'm actually going to let it drain off for a minute, and I'm going to squirt it off with a hose and see if we can get all that dirt and all that grime off of it. We'll go from there. All right, so I decided not to remove the old float valve. So I got it all cleaned up, and I got the new gasket on there, and they give you a new pin for the float and everything. So let me put the float back in there and we'll check it out. It looks exactly like a K-Series Kohler float. Am I gonna go compare it? No, but it looks exactly like it. So if I ever have an issue with an NB float, I think I'm gonna take one out of a Kohler to put in there. All right, so it's all back together now, and I adjusted the needle on the bottom to 2.5 turns out, which is what it talked about in the instructions with the rebuild kit. So for all essential purposes, I didn't rebuild anything. I just cleaned it and put a new gasket on the bowl. That's it. But I have all those parts in stock if this is a failure. So I'm going to put it back on the machine and we'll see what happens. I hooked up my battery pack here. We're going to see if we can start it. So don't forget that the carb bowl is totally dry right now, because there's no gas in it. And I'm just going to put it in full choke and put it in like kind of low throttle, and we'll see what happens. Running rich. Now all we gotta do is fix this flat tire, and then we'll be in good shape. Oh, dude, that's crazy. Oops, that was close. With the Onan NB, since it all runs off that electronic ignition, you don't have to have any battery on there once you get it started. So take that off. I never finished wiring this switch, so I can turn the switch off. It won't do a thing because I never hooked up the ground wire to it yet.